Hi, I'm James. I'm a videographer. And I'm James, and I'm a cinematographer. So what's the difference? What is up, everyone? My name is James Yahamram. Welcome to my YouTube channel, Videography. Thank you again for tuning into my channel. Please hit the subscribe and the like button if you haven't done so. But anyway, something does not feel right. All right, that felt so much better. Clean shave. And the background has changed too. I don't know if you noticed that, but anyways, today I want to talk about the difference between videographers and cinematographers. So there are basically three main differences between the two, I guess in my perspective. So the first one is basically the projects, the type of projects that the two usually are associated with. And then the second one is the role in production, and the third one is the role in post-production. Now, if you stay tuned towards the end of the video, you'll probably see why some of them blend and why is it good to be a hybrid in the two fields. So let's get straight to it. So videographers are typically associated with projects or video projects like wedding videography, corporate videography, baby's first birthdays, event videography. It also could be short films or small production type of docu-series. On the other hand, cinematographers, they are usually associated with a much bigger production. So say for example, film, TV, music videos, where you actually have a hierarchy of like a director, the cinematographer or / director of photography, and then you have your cameraman and so forth and so forth and so forth and so forth. So basically the cinematographer is taking the vision of the director and implementing into a visual representation of what the director wants. And as far as for a videographer, it's kind of like all in one. You're the person that is going to basically either talk to the client, talk to the couple, and even like do the production and even conduct the post-production part of the project. So the second thing that makes these two different is the role in production. Now, as I said, for cinematographers, they are the ones that are getting the vision of the director or creating the visual representation of what the director wants. So the cinematographer or the director of photography is basically giving instructions to camera one, steady camera up, or whoever that's operating the camera to actually make the visual happen, basically. As on the flip side, a videographer, they're literally everything. So you're talking about, they are the ones that are typically holding the camera, either directing the subject on the fly, and they are going through the motions of how a camera person would work / the director of photography would work / how the director would vision it. So it's like a incorporation of all the elements, but in a smaller scale. So the next big difference is the post-production process. So videographers are typically the ones that are going to be shooting it and editing it in post-production. As far as for the cinematographer, they are typically not fully involved in the post-production process, unless you're like this guy. Okay, so James Cameron is one of the very few that's actually, the person that directs, writes. He's a DP, he also produces most of his films, and he's also a accredited editor. So he's one of the few. So the question is, can you do both? And then says yes. So if you're starting out as a videographer and you want to make it into a cinematographer, there's definitely room to grow. And I think there's definitely like a cross mix between the two. So if you decide that you want to be, in the creative field, specifically in the video / film industry, then that's something you might want to consider, whether you want to be a videographer, a cinematographer, or, somewhere in between, or both. So I've been blessed to have done both. It really depends on the business model that you want to take and, what fits you basically. If you want to do weddings, corporates, short films, short docus, and then be hired as a cinematographer for bigger projects, that's great too. But there's also crisscross between projects as well, where you have a videography mindset and you also have a cinematographer mindset. So a good example is this project that my company did with EarthBreeze. Now, EarthBreeze hired my company, JAMY Studios, to actually create this mini documentary about a story that involves recycling laundry detergent jugs and the use of their products, how environmental friendly it is. In this particular project, there was definitely the elements of cinematography and also those elements of videography. Now, in terms of cinematography, I was in contact with their media person, and they had a certain vision of what they wanted for this particular documentary. Now, I had to basically take their vision and basically find visual representation that would actually complement what the vision of what they wanted for this mini documentary. And as far as for the videography aspect of it, there were certain events that they wanted us to capture. So in particular, they wanted us to capture this beach cleanup that was conducted by Sustainable Coastlines, and basically showing the collaboration effort between EarthBreeze and Sustainable Coastlines in the effort of bringing more awareness in regards to plastic use. Basically encapsulate this whole event so that it will show and also represent what EarthBreeze is all about. So in this project, there was definitely a hybrid of thinking between a cinematographer and thinking as a videographer as well. So in my opinion, I think the best way to actually market yourself as whether it's a videographer in a certain niche community or a cinematographer in a certain niche community is to basically have both in your arsenal. Me personally, I started off as a cinematographer and then I became a videographer. And over time, I had projects that was, videography projects and as well as cinematography projects. And I think having that mix makes your work stand out a little bit more. So are you a videographer or a cinematographer? Does it matter? Yes, it does. Be both. Hybrid. Hybrid is the way to go. The word of, I guess, the past 3 years because of the pandemic, hybrid work. So be a hybrid. Always be a hybrid. Makes you more marketable. Anywho, thank you for watching, and please be sure to hit the subscribe and the like button, and stay tuned for next week. More to come. Maybe I might have hair next week. I don't know. We'll see. But thank you for watching, and I will see you then.